Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally, and this is the Question Guy podcast. I'm here with Heather McWilliam, and I've had a conversation with Heather before. Actually, I've had several conversations, and she has such an amazing story. And I'm hoping that she will share some of that story so that we can kind of get to know who she is and how she transformed from one person to the person that we see in front of us today. Heather, welcome to the show. How do you want to get this conversation started?
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. How do we start the show? I guess from the beginning.
Okay, so what, to not give away too many teasers, you are in certain spaces, a social media phenomenon, but probably not in a very good way. Is that the start of our story?
I don't think that's the start. That's
Okay.
definitely, I think there's much more that's happened before all of
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
Then let's start from the beginning.
So I was a police officer. I became a police officer at an early age of, I was 21, 22 years old. And I was hired with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police here in Canada, which is our federal police service. And then within 2 years, I transferred to Toronto Police Service to continue my duties as a police officer there, just to be closer to family. The RCMP weren't transferring people then back to their home provinces, so I had switched over. And so I loved my job as a police officer. I loved serving the community. But throughout my career, I was noticing a lot more going on within the police station and within the workplace with my, not just my colleagues, but more so my supervisors and the leadership within policing. And so there was a lot of, at the time, because I joined so young, I was kind of, it was just commonplace for the sexual harassment within the workplace, within policing. And so it was difficult to experience on my own. And it was even so more difficult as well to see other women, other colleagues of mine experiencing it.
So wait a second. Um, you you said sexual harassment,
Yes.
and so that, and I'm gonna play naive here. That's really going on in Canada?
Yeah, it is. And it's been going on for quite some time.
Okay.
Many people have experienced this, as we now know from the past, and they were too fearful to speak up. A lot of police women and also women in the community as well. And so it's difficult to talk about even now because there's so many people, women that have been affected by the sexual harassment, and I want to say sexual violence, because there is more than just the sexual harassment that has been going on.
Well, then can I ask for your own safety? Is this an okay topic to talk about on the show?
I mean, I talk about it because I want to overcome all the fear that was instilled in us
Okay.
through this violence by police officers. Not all police officers, but ones, there is a percentage of them that have been involved in this. So, I mean, for me, it's been a very difficult experience because my life was at risk throughout when I started speaking up for myself and standing up for myself. So it did get to a point where I was in fear for my life.
Okay. So when you say at risk, you mean physical violence at being at risk.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of intimidation. I was sexually assaulted by one of my bosses. And so that was by a forced kiss. And so there was a lot of variances to what would happen by different I guess officers, if you will.
Okay.
But for my workplace, I got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I reported a complaint to my supervisor. And so from there, it wasn't really the result that was needed to be able to change and for me to be able to feel safe in the workplace. So from there, I ended up kind of being sent to work at various units while the workplace investigation was going on. And while I was at these other units, it was kind of like a closing of the ranks. Like it looked good on paper that they were helping me, but behind closed doors, I was being further harmed actually by a female supervisor within the service. And
Mm.
so discriminated against and degraded as a woman, kind of trying to put me back in my place to not stand up for myself. And so from there, I was then sent to the drug squad to do undercover work. And so, as a leader and wanting to always do my best and serve as best I can, I did as best I could in these positions. But eventually, it just all caught up to me. And then I basically took some time off work. A lot was going on. So I'm trying to really just sum it up as best I can. But I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress.
Okay.
And then from there, basically, I ended up putting in a human rights complaint um, over like 100 allegations of some of my supervisors of discrimination against women. And it was also then at that point, they were discriminating against my disability and trying to force me back into work, not acknowledging the diagnosis that I had received of complex post-traumatic stress. And so it just kept escalating. And so I went to the Human Rights Tribunal in Ontario and had filed a complaint there. And over the course of about, I think it was from the time I filed to the time court finished, it was about 7 years.
Seven,
Um,
seven?
7.
Oh my gosh. So you lived in fear for your life for seven
Yeah.
plus years because it was time before and then all of that time. Wow.
Yeah,
But
there was a lot.
you came out
Mhm.
victorious.
Yes, yes, I did.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it was in 2020 that the hearing finally came to a close, so to speak. It was after about, I think it was 30 some police officers that had taken the stand against me, mostly high ranking police officers.
Mm.
And there was no officers standing on my side, like on our side of the, not on defensive side. So
Right.
it was me against them. And, I could see a lot of them, some of them were part of the problem. Some were also in fear to stand up against, their supervisors. So I won a landmark human rights case for women's rights and disability
Congratulations.
rights. Thank you. And so there was a lot of changes that were made within our workplace. It was deemed a toxic workplace for women, and they basically were ordered to present a human rights strategy plan um, to
Well,
make up for the gaps.
before you talk about that, can you in some way identify how you won? Like were there some clinching proofs?
So my testimony, I gave 6 days of testimony, and I was deemed credible in the final decision by the human rights adjudicator.
Okay.
And so basically, it came down to a case of credibility, and
Okay.
so my truth rang, um, you know, um, stronger than the other police officers that were expressing what they were giving testimony on.
I so to be honest, as much value as your testimony needs to have, you must had a great lawyer. I'm
I
telling you because
we
that
have to get to that. Yes.
oh okay.
So
Because
my
that's
lawyer is a human rights lawyer, and she had 30 years. Her name is Kate Hughes, and God bless her. Kate Hughes, just an amazing person, and also the other two lawyers that were also involved in the case, Nadia
for
Lambeck,
you.
and yes, for
Okay.
me, and
Okay.
Tyler Boggs. And so they also gave a lot of their time and donated their time to the case as well. And it was hard, right? Because at first you don't necessarily, I think, want to believe that the police would actually, not tell the truth to this, especially to this degree, like, I mean, at all, but then to have this much of it. So, it was difficult too, because they had a challenge of their own. There was so much evidence. There was so much so many years that had gone on, and so they gave me literally their heart and their soul. Like I can't tell you how much they saved they saved my life during that time, because when no one else believed me, they believed me and they stood behind me and they supported me. And so it gave me that strength to keep going. And like my brave and their brave together, along with my doctors and family, like it was all just it was really a force that it, it, it worked so well. Like everyone came together, and, I mean, anyone else, who knows what could have happened, but I can definitely say that without them, I don't know where we would be with this, right?
So you just used a word that I think you use a lot now,
Yeah.
and the word is brave. Can you talk
Yes.
about what that means to you?
Yeah. So brave always meant, as a police officer, it's like you're running in to, help someone physically and that sort of thing. But in my journey with mental health, brave to me became like, getting out of bed. It meant it meant taking care of yourself. It meant standing in your truth. It meant not making your faith bigger than your fear. So, and it meant like understanding that because I was injured, that I was still beautiful in my brave, is way I started to start seeing it. Because not every, when you have post-traumatic stress and you're dealing with so much going on, it's difficult because you're always seeing yourself, for me anyways, I should say, is how I used to be and how all the things that I used to be able to do. Instead, I switched that mindset around and started seeing and focusing on all the good things that I now was and that I was becoming. And so that to me was brave, is was being able to accept myself as I was, and being able to, change my mindset. And every day was going to be a challenge, and every day, was a new challenge. But being brave was be able to just like, you know, accept who we are and just bravely walk into whatever that is for that day, for that month, for that year. And with that mindset, I was able to just continue in my brave, but also inspire others to walk their brave, and vice versa. Like I said, like with my lawyers and my doctors, every time they, they didn't back down and they continued to stand as a team with me against the police service, like it was their brave too, and it would inspire me. So it was that energy back and forth.
So when I said that it's a word that you use a lot, you actually use it as a brand, I believe. So
Yes.
from this story, you actually can you talk about that? Because you actually use it as I seen it on your brand. Now, forgive me, I can't remember exactly, but I know that word does exist
Yeah.
in your brand.
Yeah, so it was the 2021. I was wanting to do more after my case, and I was thinking about what I could do as an entrepreneur. And what came to me was brave inspires brave, because I thought about what I was doing. I was being brave. I was inspiring other people to be brave, and it was like the same thing coming back to me. It was that energy, brave inspires brave, and it kept growing. And so that's what I launched in it was actually March 8th. It was Women's Day 2021 is when I launched it.
So almost 2 year anniversary coming up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you
So
so much.
what does Brave Inspire Brave do? And what have you been doing for the past
Mhm.
2 years?
So over the last 2 years, I've done a lot. I've done a lot of connecting. I've done a lot of, seeing what the need was for what Brave Inspires Brave could do, and where we could best, I could best help people, is where I was looking at it. And so I was seeking out, basically everyone from lawyers to doctors to entrepreneurs to creators to um, visionaries. I wanted to know really a lot about people's brave and how they were um, inspiring other people. I just think it's so amazing how people can do that, and that on a global scale, that just gets bigger and bigger. And so I was able to connect with a lot of people in my community and in Canada and globally. And so I was mostly looking into evolving policing and filling in those gaps as what I saw fit within my, my experience. But now I've connected with others globally, and we've now rebranded where it's going to be, something even bigger, more like my mission is now a movement of inspiring people's brave.
Well, then inspire the question guy. What what do I need to do to fit into your idea be brave? Or have I done it already because you're on my show?
You've done it. You've definitely done it. I think anyone that speaks their truth and stands in a leadership position with integrity and professionalism, I think that, and compassion and kindness and heart led leadership and all those things, and just really listening to people and, hearing their story and allowing people to tell their story and supporting people. I think it's all brave. And I think that you're doing all of that. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. So talk to us about, you said that you were connecting now with people globally. So what does that look like and who are you connecting with? And it's okay if they've already been on my podcast or the show. And if they haven't, I need to have those conversations with them as well. So what does that global growth look like for you?
For me, it looks like, we've connected with Be Happy for Nothing. Like Alka has connected with me. And so that's a global scale right there, right? She's in 7 other countries. So you think about how many people that she's connected with, and she's being brave and doing what she's doing, right? And then those people that she's helping, they're being brave in their own daily lives and what they're doing. And then it goes on from there. I've connected with another agency, Hoinzer Media Group, and so they're a global agency, media agency. And then there's all kinds of people within their community, right, that are doing all kinds of brave things around the world. And it just keeps growing. I think it's really limitless in how many people that we can reach that are doing brave things around the world. And I really, really want to highlight them and just show everyone that we're in this together. I think that it's definitely something that, I learned from your brave, and you can learn from mine. And it just continues, and there's no stop to it.
So just a quick aside, we met through Al Cabahoran
Mm-hmm.
and Be Happy for Nothing. And when you mentioned the word that what she's doing is brave, I've never really thought of it in that manner. Now, she has her own unique mission of bringing, at the very least, basic needs and safety to people of the world. And by far, maybe other people are doing it, but she's doing it in a very, very unique way and strategic way. But I never thought of it as being brave. I thought from her, it was, well, even from her story, it was the expression of the outpouring of the heart. I think that's in scripture. The outpouring of her heart because she knew she would still wanted to connect with people during the pandemic. And from that experience, she made those connections, built those relationships, and now she's got her own movement. And maybe the two of you are working on parallel movements just to make the world a better place, both brave and I'm going to use her word, safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's of real value. And I just want to, there, sorry about that. How being brave, and I'm liking that word, but also requires you to be safe. And so I want to go back to your initial story because I asked you that before. If this was a safe, did you feel safe having telling your story here? Are you safe? That's a real question.
So with post-traumatic stress, you always have flashbacks of when you felt unsafe. So every
Okay.
time I would go to speak about my experience or what I was doing, I received indirect threats to my life. So I am safe.
Good.
I am safe. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I
You
mean, you got
know,
to be safe to do everything else, but still,
yeah.
you
But the
can.
thing is that the braver I become and the stronger I am in speaking up about what I've experienced, the safer I felt I became.
Okay. So
And
it's an
in
inter.
community, it's definitely a quality of life that grew from being able to speak to other people. Is that's what made me safer, is that quality of life of like being able to be connected to other people where you're not in isolation, as a victim or as a survivor.
So before the call, before this conversation, I happened to mention to you that I'm seeing a lot of activity about you. You're posting a lot of activity, good stuff on your social media, especially on LinkedIn, which is my primary social media account. What's the good stuff? What's going? What are you? And I say that because in my book I talk about accomplishments are part of our who we are, and so there's something we should celebrate the wins. I hear that a lot. We should celebrate the wins. What are you celebrating these days?
There's so much to celebrate these days, and like I said, I'm so humbled by them. I didn't ever expect to, be able to receive so much accomplishments in such a short amount of time after winning my case and, really finding myself again. But I've received a lot of various awards for my accomplishments as a global entrepreneur. So, it also is with my advocacy and humanitarianism, and it's being able to give back now in a different way that I had envisioned, but now it's here. So it's like it's all here, and I'm just so humbled by it. I really am, and I want to be able to do more, and I am going to be doing more. So the exciting thing right now is Brave Inspires Brave. We're relaunching. We're going to be doing events, and we're going to be out there, doing more lives on social media, but also wanting to be in person too, right? And spreading the word of brave, kind, leadership that feels safe, that has integrity, and I'm also going to be starting a podcast too. So there's a lot going on. I
Well,
am so excited.
congratulations.
Thanks.
So what's your is that going to be the name of your podcast? Brave Inspires Brave?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
it will be.
cool. And I was going to ask, but you already alluded to the fact that you're now a speaker, I guess. You are going and talking to people about what it means to be brave. So where
Yes.
should we expect to see you in 2023?
We haven't had the destinations finalized yet, but I will definitely post them when they come up.
Okay.
I hope to be, in the United States, in Canada, sharing my brave and sharing other people's brave as well. I think that, when we talk about Alka being brave, everyone's brave is different, right? So what I can do seems brave to someone, right? And what you can do seems brave to me. So, we all have our strengths. And so I think that all of us together being brave and speaking together and sharing that is definitely it's on that global scale. Like we have leaders in all kinds of countries that have so much wisdom and lessons to share that we're stronger together.
So as a final thought, leaving the conversation, give our audience, and especially think about who your audience is. And I'm not even sure because everybody needs to step up and be brave. And that's a scary thing. It took time, effort, energy, and I guess some courage to be sitting here now with you through what I've gone through in the past 2 to 3 years. What is your word of hope, inspiration, and I'll say it, how to be brave for our listening audience?
For me, I think that everyone's standing in their integrity and really vocalizing that. The more that we do that, and the more that we become more authentic when we have our conversations, whether it be on social media, whether it be on our podcast, whether it be over meetings, I think the more authentic we are to one another and let down that guard that we all are human,
Hmm.
and that we all have pain and we all have suffering and we all have joy, that we need to share that. And I think that to me is one of the bravest things that people can do is in their everyday life, is that to not be afraid to share what's really happening so that we can all know that we're not alone. I think that the best thing that we can do is be honest with each other, right? So we can lift each other up, because if I don't know what's going on authentically, I'm not able to help you or help anyone, so the more I can know what someone needs or what someone's going through, or celebrate with them their joys in life and their awards, I think that it connects us even more.
Heather McWilliam, this has been a fantastic and wonderful conversation to have with you. And I'm so glad that you have reached this point in your life because only good things can follow. For those who are watching and listening, we thank you for joining us on the Question Guy podcast. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thanks, Keith.